I'm Natalia Bonner. Happy Monday. Okay, I'm back today with another fun machine quilting video. This quilt that I'm quilting on is actually one that was made by my client, Jan. It's such an awesome quilt. And as I was quilting this quilt, I was thinking about these borders. So what I'm sharing with you today are a couple of the small stop borders, and I'm going to share a couple of the designs that I will quilt in those. So sometimes I feel like stop borders can be a little bit daunting because they're a small space. You know, often they're like 1 inch or sometimes even smaller than that. Sometimes I don't quilt them. I leave them unquilted if they're small enough and I feel like it's okay to leave them unquilted. But with this quilt today, I'm actually going to quilt the 2 stop borders that are next to each other using 2 different patterns. So the ribbon candy and a fun little loop. And I'm going to walk you through my process of quilting those. So on this quilt, I am doing all of my quilting on my Gammill 22-inch machine. This is hand-guided quilting, and I am stitching in the stitch regulated mode with my stitch length set at 12 stitches per inch. I am going to be using gray thread on the top and the bottom. That's so fine thread. And then the batting that I'm using here is 1 layer of Quilter String Poly Deluxe. So if you do want to see more of this fun quilt, make sure you do hop over and check out my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Natalia Bonner. But in the meantime, let's get stitching. So the 2 simple borders that I'm going to be sharing with you today are these fun loops and also this fun ribbon candy design. Now, as you can see this image, there's also that super cute scallop border there, and I do have another video, make sure you check it out, where I teach you step by step how to machine quilt that fun, simple scallop border. So let's get stitching. Let's start out with some ribbon candy. So this first border that I'm going to be stitching, I am going to be quilting some ribbon candy. So when I stitch out ribbon candy, I am thinking about circles. Why am I thinking about circles? Because as I stitch this design, I'm kind of in my brain envisioning that I'm stitching a line that wraps around a circle, then stitches to the opposite side and wraps around another circle. So when you're stitching this design out, if you are struggling and you just can't get it, you can always grab something circular, trace around it, and then stitch around it. Or you could also always place on your quilt like a dime or a penny, something like that that's small enough that you could just stitch right around that, move it and stitch, or you can also mark around that. So with this design, because I am quilting on my Gammill 22-inch machine, I do have the stitch length set at 12 stitches per inch. So I'm stitching here with gray sew fine thread. I start out as far as my throat space will allow me on the left-hand side of the quilt. So I stitch up all the way up that border design, then all the way across the top. When I get all the way over to the right side, then I'll stitch down again as far as my throat space will allow. With a design like this, with a border design, when I advance the quilt, that's when I'll work in little sections and complete the sashing design. Personally, especially with a design like this, I prefer not to stop and turn my quilt. Now next to those ribbon candies, I'm going to stitch some fun loops. So these loops are really simple. I start out along my spine. Now with this border, I have gone through and stitched in the ditch all the way across first. Personally, I love the look of Stitch in the Ditch. So you can pretty much plan that I'm going to do that on every quilt. So again, I start out as far down as my throat space will allow me and stitch just those fun loops coming back to my spine every time. When I get to the corner, you can see that I stitch right up to the corner, use the ditch as the place to travel, where I then go and start and stitch more loops, working my way all the way across. Now you can see here that I'm not perfect. These loops aren't perfect. My spacing's not perfect. And I'm okay with it because I'm a human. And overall, this looks really awesome. I'll let you continue watching for just a few moments and then I'll be back. You all found just a little bit of inspiration from today's video. Like I said, make sure you check out the video where I teach you step by step how to stitch out that scallop border design. I do also have an online class called Let's Stitch Scallop Borders, where I teach you step by step how to machine quilt a whole bunch of fun scallop border designs. Have a great day, everybody.